Greetings, citizens, and welcome to another adventure of the Real Comic Heroes podcast. My name is Travis.
And I'm Patrick.
I'm Brandon.
And I'm Cullen.
How's it going, guys?
It's going well. I know this is a little sneak preview. We're recording after St. Patrick's Day, so I think that it's going to be subdued, is what I suspect today.
Yeah.
That's cool. I got my barf bucket over here if needed.
Yum, yum.
Yep.
Stick a straw in there and go to town.
Oh, that is not helping anyone.
On that note, to our new listeners that we've now turned away, if you're new to the show, every episode I hide from an evil Patrick in an old cabin, and occasionally we revisit geeky movies chronologically. You can find our list of reviews over at realpodcastnetwork.com.
Why do I gotta be the evil one? Jeez.
So, gentlemen, give us a little, give our listeners a little, about yourselves, where you're from, what your show's all about.
Well, we are Cult Cinema Cavalcade. Every episode we, kind of like you, where we talk about a different movie. However, we're not going in order. We talk about different obscure, unusual, forgotten oddities. Sometimes there'll be stuff that is more mainstream, like I'm trying to think of the most mainstream thing that we did was Halloween 2 was the most mainstream thing that we've done. That I can think of anyway.
Superman 3?
Superman 3. Well, that was different. That was a Versus episode, but we can explain that in a moment. Anyway, but then we got the stuff that we do mostly is, what the hell was that? In that genre, like the one that we have that we recorded most recently was The Pit, which was a movie about a psychopathic child that has a teddy bear talk to him that also happens to discover a pit full of carnivorous monsters. And it's Canadian. So it's a whole bunch of stuff just rolled in together.
And the kid's a sexual predator.
And
Okay.
Let's not forget about that fun little nugget that they decided to throw in there. So it's just I don't know. It's a lot of fun, I think. And if you don't think so, then you're wrong.
Nice.
Well said.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. And you guys tend to stick more horror kind of.
We're everywhere.
Okay.
We don't limit. Horror's like, there's a lot of, really cheap horror movies from like the 80s and 70s and stuff that make it easy to.
Oh, sure.
There's plenty to pick from, but we don't limit ourselves just to horror. We've had, action movies and just stuff that doesn't work. There's no shortage of things to choose from.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be covering a cult classic coming up, Travis.
I don't know what you're
I
talking
believe it's
about.
called Spaceballs.
I'll dismantle.
Is that
this
a cult
podcast.
classic?
It feels like it when I talk to Travis. He hates on that movie so much. I love it so
dismantle
much.
this podcast before we get to that.
So you're saying there's going to be a real comic book heroes throwdown
Pretty
on that
much.
episode?
Yeah, it's going to be a civil war.
Oh, nice. I assume that's comic book related and not historical. So do I wear the blue one or the gray uniform? I'm not sure. I know there's reenacting involved. That's about
Which
all I
one?
got.
Which one of you is the racist?
Yeah.
Patrick, not me.
Okay.
Oh,
All right.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Nope.
Well, aside from rewatching a little bit of this morning and almost throwing up, we got some little quotes here. Or taglines, I should say.
Okay.
See, I'm already thrown off. So first of all, I didn't even know the name of the movie was Evil Dead 2, Dead Before Dawn.
Dead by Dawn.
Or Dead by Dawn. Like, I had no idea of that secondary title.
Sure.
And after watching the movie, I have no idea why it's called Evil Dead 2. So I guess that all works out. But
that's before they started putting 1.5 in titles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that would have made more sense because I had no idea what I was walking into on this one. But for the taglines, I will say at least these go against the usual ones we hit up against. So I guess that's a positive. So first off, we have I have to do some acting on this one. Pleasure, please. I'm not sure what they're supposed to do with that, but that's what one of them is.
That's a tagline.
Yep.
Wow.
It's pleasure, please.
Is that like for like the French territory or something? Or
I don't know. I'm guessing that's Ash's voice saying that, maybe.
or maybe it's like pleasure, please.
Yeah, I don't know. It's the weirdest one I've seen.
It could have been off of like is that a tagline from 1987, or is that like from one of the magnitude of DVD and Blu-ray releases from the film?
It does not stipulate where it's from, but it could be. I mean, it's just weird, but I kind of like it anyway. It fits the movie. So then the next one we have is Kiss Your Nerves Goodbye. Meh. And then
okay.
That's a classic one from this.
Yeah. I think I don't know.
I think it makes more sense than pleasure, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If nothing else.
It fits the tone of the movie.
It does. Then we got, of course, the sequel-related tagline, too terrifying, too frightening, too much.
Too furious.
Yes.
Exactly. Then we have the comedy horror of the decade. And then, of course, they put in parentheses that it's a pun for decade.
Yeah.
Because I'm an idiot. Okay. It's more obvious when you're reading it than hearing it. So
It needs to be on one of those like motion graphics, where you move the thing and then like, oh, it looks like he's winking or something like that.
Yeah. And then we got the last one, which is pretty generic, the sequel to the ultimate experience in grueling terror.
That one's actually in the credits. Like,
oh, is it?
Yeah.
Huh. So. It's kind of, I would have rather had that pleasure, please one. It's growing on me. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Well, that's playing off the Stephen King quote, I believe, from the first film.
Oh, yeah.
Stephen King was a big help to the first movie by giving it like a rave review.
Oh, yeah.
And he also helped get this one off the ground as well. So they're playing off of his quote that they put on the originals poster and threw that overseas everywhere too, because having the Stephen King stamp of approval was huge.
Makes sense.
All right.
And that'll do it for taglines.
All right. Let's get into a little Evil Dead. So we have Act 1 begins with Ash and Linda driving to the cabin again, and ends with Ash emerging from the work shed after destroying Linda's severed head. Act 2 begins with Ash talking to himself in the mirror and ends with a groovy montage. Act 3 begins with Ash heading into the cellar to retrieve the missing pages from the Book of the Dead and ends with Army of Darkness.
What do you say we have some champagne, huh, baby? Huh?
Sure.
After all, I'm a man and you're a woman. At least last time I checked.
Okay.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. So I guess we'll start off with just what is your history with Evil Dead? And whoever wants to jump into that first.
Okay. The original Evil Dead was it's one of my favorite horror movies of all time, and I saw it at a young, impressionable age where it really scared and grossed the hell out of me. So it was really effective with that. And for the longest time, when I was growing up, there's Evil Dead and Army of Darkness, which I could never find like Evil Dead 2 at like rental stores, stuff like that. So I had to like special order the damn thing to see it. And that was only once Anchor Bay got it, because the original VHS of it was out of print, or the studio that had it went out of business, so you couldn't find it or whatnot. But I finally, got to Evil Dead 2, and it's insane. It's kind of the hybrid between the first movie and Army of Darkness, whereas it's still got the horror aspects, but it's got a lot of the comedy aspects that Army of Darkness goes full throw in. But this thing, I don't know, to me, it's just one of the most insane movies ever, but it's not it's in total control of what it wants to be. It's an amazingly directed film by Sam Raimi, maybe his best work, honestly. Like, it's got a lot of experimental things to do. He's not afraid to try things that other directors might be, and he just has his own style. He's inventing a lot of things that will be borrowed from many other places, and I don't know. It's just a movie that I constantly go back to. It's one of the quickest movies ever to watch too. It's over once it starts. It just paces itself so well and runs so good. But I've held dear to these movies for quite a long time, most of my life. Yay! So that's maybe my history.
Cool.
I was Army of Darkness fan for a long time, and I honestly had no idea that there were other movies. And I think it was in high school, and someone said, there's more of them, right? Like, what? Shut up. Like, no, seriously, there's more of them. Like, what? So I came across them. I think I had to get them from Suncoast, I think that's where I bought them. I don't remember if I rented them. But yeah, as soon as I saw them, I fell in love with them, and I guess that's my history.
Okay, Patrick, what about you?
Yeah, I believe I saw Army of Darkness first, and I liked it because it reminded me of like Clash of the Titans, the whole claymation-y stop motion kind of thing. I saw Evil Dead 2 apparently after that, and was thoroughly confused by Evil Dead 1, thinking that I'd already seen it and realizing I hadn't. Which makes sense now watching them back to back, since this is sort of I don't know if I want to say parody, but it's sort of like a reimagining of the first one.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I got confused by 1 and 2 and not realizing that I hadn't seen both because they're very similar. But I'd have to say that I wasn't huge into Evil Dead, but ironically I became a huge fan of the Ash vs. Evil Dead TV series. And I'm still trying to figure out why I love that show so much if I'm not that hot on the movies.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe it's just the character of Ash that has developed over the years that I just like the character itself now.
Yeah.
Maybe I can identify with aging and thinking I'm still a young stud like him.
And a wooden hand.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that too. I identify with Ash and the guy from Happy Gilmore. How about you, Travis?
Well, this is actually my first time watching Evil Dead 2. Hold for gasps. Yeah, I mean, I saw Army of Darkness first as a teenager, and then I think I'd watched Evil Dead a few years ago, and then of course we covered it here on the show, which is now a lost recording due to the inherent evil of the subject matter, and it's one that I never got around to. No one gave it to me and said, "Here, you have to watch this." Like I just wasn't. I don't know. I missed out on Evil Dead 2, and then really for a long time Evil Dead. But yeah, I've always liked Army of Darkness, so I'm familiar enough with kind of the world that this is all in. So, but even now watching Evil Dead 2, it was strange, that it kind of does reimagine the first movie and everything. So, but I think I've kind of discovered that I'm really just not a Raimi guy. Like, I remember loving what he did with movies like A Simple Plan and, of course, the Spider-Man movies. But I think just this genre of movie it just ain't my bag. The schlocky horror comedy kind of stuff. Just I don't know.
Fair enough. Well, oddly enough, I did find the lost recording. It happened to end up in a abandoned cabin off my property on a reel-to-reel.
Yeah.
So Just so you know.
Okay, good. So it is still out there. That's good.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
it's called Splat Stick. If you want to go technical about it.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, and this movie basically invented the term splat stick. And then the reason they, you're like they're remaking the first movie. They didn't have the rights to use the footage for a recap of the first movie, which a lot of horror movies and sequels would use back in the 70s and 80s because VHS wasn't like this booming thing that they expected everybody to have seen it or been able to have access to it. So a lot of movies would put a recap using footage from the previous movie, and this movie was made with the De Laurentiis group, and the first movie was an independent production, and whoever had the rights wouldn't shell them over, so they had to reshoot stuff, and they decided during it that, hey, we can recraft this in any way we kind of want because everybody died in the first one, and we can kind of retool it to our liking and craft it for this story, which then became a sort of rite of passage because Army of Darkness will also retell the events of the first movie again in a different way using Bridget Fonda, I believe, is the Linda in that. And there was a great joke in this current season of Ash vs. the Evil Dead where he said something about going to a place and he goes, oh, that's where I met my first Linda, because there's 3 different Lindas in the film series. But that's kind of why they did that, is because they didn't have the rights and they could sculpt it to kind of refit their own way.
Very cool.
Yeah. I wasn't aware of all that until I'm just diving into the kind of research for this. So it makes sense, that the rights issue and kind of shooting around that. The thing that confuses me is why call it Evil Dead 2 if it's going to be kind of its own thing? And
because they wanted a sequel to it, and the European markets, the first Evil Dead was huge overseas, and the European markets were sold on an Evil Dead 2, which was called La Casa overseas, which there are actually like 9 Evil Dead movies overseas. That's a whole nother story. But so they sold it as Evil Dead 2, and due to an HBO sale from De Laurentiis and the overseas sale, before they even went in front of camera for this movie, they were in profit. So the budget got to be increased for this movie, and they were already profiting. So the movie could have opened to $0 at the box office opening weekend and been profitable. So
wow. A lot of that was like $3.6 million was the budget.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and so that's why it's Evil Dead 2, and it doesn't matter. I mean, it is a sequel. It retcons things from the first movie, but I mean, there is a progression in the plot. It's very minimal. I mean, it's like an added little epilogue by the end of it, but it still progresses the plot somewhere else.
Yeah, I think with this one they had the intention of telling a more a fuller story, whereas the first one was just sort of standalone-ish.
Yeah, the second one's just a horror movie with demons. This one establishes some more mythology to all that in the background.
Yeah.
The first one was, isn't this crazy? Can you believe all these terrible things are happening? Yeah, and there is more of a plot to this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Raimi didn't want to make this movie, but he failed. They had a horrible experience. They made a movie called Crime Wave that just went like horrible. And the only thing they could really do, they thought they were done. Like they thought they were like Bruce Campbell, Robert Tapert, Sam Raimi thought they were never making a movie again. And they, went to say, hey, we might need to do another Evil Dead. And they got the De Laurentiis group. Apparently Coca-Cola at the time was going to make movies, and they were going to make Evil Dead 2, but De Laurentiis group had a better offer and didn't take so long to negotiate. And Stephen King actually pushed. He was making Maximum Overdrive at the time for De Laurentiis, and they got wind of an Evil Dead 2 and told him, he's like, hey, you need to make this movie. So that's kind of where it got through.
In between doing lines of coke, he said to De Laurentiis, please
and
make this movie.
De Laurentiis, after watching him have like a cocaine lunch, said, you know what? I should listen to this guy.
This guy obviously knows what he's talking about.
You've got a level head.
But yeah, Sam originally, he wasn't going to direct or anything. He hired Scott Spiegel, came on board, and someone else was going to do it. And they tossed that script, and then Sam got more involved and decided to go a more comedic approach, which his love of Three Stooges is apparent in like every movie he does, and and that's where he kind of switched focus to with this, and he creates like a genre that not creates the genre, but handles things like no one else can really handle it like Sam Raimi. People can try to make these movies, but the amount of balance of horror and comedy that's actually effective and works and doesn't feel like it's harshly turning corners is something he's a master of. Because even after years and years and years of not doing horror movies, he come back in like 2009 with Drag Me to Hell and feels like there was no time off between like an Army of Darkness and Drag Me to Hell. It's just boom. So I mean, he's an expert at it.
I think the only other director that I can think of that would come close to be able to do this would be like Edgar Wright.
Yeah, but I mean, his is more straight up joke.
Yeah, no, he has his own style, obviously,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, I see what you mean about like you can kind of tell when you're watching an Edgar Wright movie or a Sam Raimi movie, because there are definitely times in Spider-Man 2 with the whole Dr. Octopus surgery scene. That's a horror movie, and
right out of Evil Dead.
It really is, yeah.
And then there's the scene where Ash gears up in this movie. That's comic book frames come to life.
Oh, sure.
And nobody was doing anything like that. Like that's a straight up comic book thing. Like, and he was a huge. I mean, he go on to do Darkman shortly after this. So,
oh yeah,
he's a comic book nut and putting lots of skills that many other directors didn't have the inspiration Sam Raimi did, or a lot of the ideas, and his were just coming straight out of him, which were weird, different, experimental then, but now we're put in full use by many other directors.
Yes, someone should have shown this to Ang Lee and said, "This is how you make a comic book movie. If you want to make something with comic book panels, this is how you do it."
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Hulk.
Yeah. One of the things early on that I was kind of made me wonder is, we're in the retelling, of the first movie section, and they waste no time with her turning evil and coming after him, and then it occurred to me like how quickly she's outside and it doesn't even really look all that different, and he just chops her head off. Like I kind of wondered, like, really, she just spooks him outside and he chops her head off. So
that's why you never come up to someone and surprise them.
Sure,
you always want to announce your presence, otherwise your head's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first one, he took his sweet time dealing with the fact that his lady had turned evil. And this one, he's just like, her looks have gone.
It's a recap. We didn't need like the whole
at the
thing
time
again.
Though, like it watching it and obviously watching this for the first time, I wasn't fully aware that they were going to be doing a recap of the first movie. So I'm just watching this, and I'm like, wait, kind of took me by surprise that she ends up dead so quickly, and he's already burying her, and like we're moving on before he's even before there are any other actors in this movie. So it a little bit of a surprise, but
well, it's also like this kind of recap is a lot different because with other recaps, like Brandon said, they were able to use their own footage.
Yeah.
And this one they had to reshoot stuff, but when they reuse footage from other movies, the recap is usually like 2-3 minutes. This is like the first act of the movie.
Yeah,
that's what's
7 minutes.
Yeah, well, guys, it feels like it's longer than that, but it just goes on for such a long time. It's just so, like you said, it's just so surprising, especially if you've watched the first one. You're like, wait, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
And I watched the second one first, so when I did watch the first one, I didn't. It was like the character, I didn't recognize him because he was so different.
It was like a prequel to you.
Yeah, because Ash was very, I don't want to say timid, but he was more normal.
Yeah, he wasn't the action hero. Until like the third act.
Well, there's a very big similarity between these first two movies and Mad Max and The Road Warrior. Whereas a lot of people saw the Road Warrior first, and the first one kind of plays out like an unintentional like prequel to the first one that you didn't need, the first Mad Max, where it's got that generic, man loses family, screams no into the sky type thing and becomes Mad Max. And he's not quite like that character yet, but that you want in the Road Warrior. And this one's kind of similar in that aspect where you go, like if you saw Evil Dead 2 first and then you're like, oh, we're going to make the prequel to that. And then you've got an elongated version of this first act where the character's kind of a little more dramatic, stuff like that. So it kind of plays in that field.
That's a great comparison.
Yeah, that's perfect, actually. Man, outshining us on our own podcast.
No kidding.
This will be the last episode.
Yep. Oh, sorry, Patrick. We didn't get to make it to Spaceballs. Damn it. What can you do?
Hey, it's good to be the king.
In that, still in the first act, I love the the trip, the chase through the house as the evil is like coming after Ash. And it's like, how many doors are in this cabin and how many hallways? They do an amazing...
There's a secret pathway, if you notice, that he goes through behind walls, which is awesome.
I love that chase scene, and it's obviously they kind of play with the speed of filming and everything to pull it off, but it works really well. We've seen a lot of speed ramping and all that stuff in so far in this podcast, and it's usually not done very well, but I think it works really well here. But I really, really love that little sequence of kind of chasing Ash through the house, and he's like slamming doors, and then the evil, just busts straight through the door, and you're right on top of him the entire way. And the one thing I was wondering is what is he seeing? Like, is he seeing what we see at the end of the movie, like the big rubber monster head, or is it like a ghost? Or I wasn't sure what he was seeing, or if it's just I
think it's just a sense, or like or a force that maybe it looks like the Predator or something when he's invisible coming at you or something, but he just senses it or just feels it coming his way. And I think it's better left just to not know. Yeah. That's kind of the fun with it.
It's kind of the same in jumping into like the second act when they're all outside and the evil is kind of rushing at the cabin, and it's like getting closer and closer to Jake, but then like he can't see it. It's just it's just there. So I really like the.
Well, it's great because you're in the perspective of like the essentially the villainous character while go run with your hero. So it's a real interesting take. And I mean they're the motion camera that they use for this, like when they later on when they'll go through the front of the car, is really impressive. I mean this is the 1987. These cameras aren't tiny, too, that they're doing these with. These are big, film cameras. I mean steady cams. Not so much steady cams, but they're.
Well, I know, like on the first one, they just took the camera and just like they attached it to like a 2x4, like either with like I don't know, tape or whatever, and that's just what they had at the time. I assume with this one that they like you said, Brandon, has a steady cam or something, but I mean they could have just done the same thing and it would have looked just as well, just as good.
I mean, there's the one thing I love is there's so many camera tricks going on with this, so many old school things that they're just
Dutch tilts
so impressive that are just done. I mean, nowadays they're done in the post production, but I mean they're really doing them here, and they look so genuine and just it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say that the different zooming and camera tricks that they were doing, at some point I got a little like off kilter, and I don't know if that was the intended effect that they were going for, but it sort of made me feel like if you're watching it like intently and you're just like zooming left, right, back, forward, it sort of puts you in that frame of mind, like you're disoriented as to what like. And I'm assuming they did that on purpose, because when I was watching it, it made me feel uneasy like throughout that whole sequence. So I thought it was really cool.
I mean, the scene in the house where everything starts moving and the clock's dinging and all that, and he's like just goes insane. I mean, that's the perfect summation of like how you're supposed to feel with this movie. It's incredible, and I mean, there are a lot of great performances. I mean, another thing with this movie, there's a lot of this movie that was filmed in reverse. Like so much of this movie is filmed in reverse. It's insane in that you don't even realize it or notice it. It's very impressive.
And Sam Raimi would criticize Bruce Campbell's reverse acting.
Yeah. I think I think the only movie that has this topped in amount of footage in reverse is Top Secret. That one scene in that. I mean, that might be it.
That scene with the talking, or sort of that insane, the stuffed animal on the wall, and
the deer.
Yeah, and then the other pieces of furniture, I guess, are moving and talking. It just made me think of Beauty and the Beast and how terrifying that truly is.
My note for all the stuff in the house kind of coming to life was it's just fucked up Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Someone, a critic called it a critic referred to as Pee-wee's Haunted Playhouse.
Oh, okay.
Back in '87. Yeah. Be our guest. Be our guest.
Yeah.
Could recut that, put it on YouTube with Be Our Guest playing.
Oh yeah.
No, and there's where he goes in the mirror and he's talking to her. He's like, "You're okay. You're okay." He's like, "We are not okay." Oh, so good.
Yeah, where he reaches out and grabs himself. Yeah, that's. I think at that point it's like, okay, I'm legitimately insane now. I don't know what reality is anymore.
What my last part about Act 1 is the dance scene, if you can call it that. The
corpse dance.
The corpse dance. Yeah, I
dance
love
of the
that
dead?
sequence.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That unnerves me. I think it's just the way it moves.
Yeah, because it's going back to that Clash of the Titans type stop motion stuff that you were talking about.
That always
it's a Ray Harryhausen tribute, which he'll go full stop with in Army of Darkness, is like a complete Harryhausen tribute. Yeah. But they were playing with it here.
Well, it is absolutely unnerving. Aside from the head being cut off, of course. It's just such an unnatural motion. It's kind of like in. Well, it reminds me of the Ring or the Grudge, where the character is moving and there's drop frames, and it's just you can see this object moving in front of you, but they move to an unnatural location, but your eyes are there. You see them the whole time. It's just how the hell did they move their body like that? Yeah,
it's sort of like a scuttling effect today, where it's just quickly moving and I don't know why it's so unnerving, but anything that's moving how it shouldn't, aside from superhero movies, I guess.
Right. Well, the giggling doesn't help either as she's dancing around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oof.
And by the way, how fast did she decay? She's only been there a couple hours.
Yeah.
Well, she's possessed, so I'm gonna leave it to that.
Yeah.
Look at her face. I mean.
That she's
it's the
holding.
whole body thing, because his hand, when his hand becomes possessed, it just immediately got longer nails and grisly looking. So I think the whole body takes effect of that.
Yeah, when you get possessed, it dries you out pretty quick.
Like I say, anytime you're possessed, hydrate.
Yep.
Sort of like when you're recording after St. Patrick's Day.
Have that straw for the puke bucket though.
I made it through the dance sequence, so I think I'm going to be okay.
Okay.
That was by far the creepiest and grossest thing to me. And that's saying something.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a creepy, gross movie, if that's the pinnacle for it. Yeah.
For me, that was it.
I was sort of surprised when he's, they're in the work shed and he, clamps her head into the vise and, goes after her with the chainsaw. I like that they cut away and show the silhouette and everything because it's a great visual, but I'm also a little surprised that they don't show it, I think
with your expectations.
Right, yeah. But it does work definitely as a cutaway, and you see the silhouette. So,
well, it's like Brandon said. That feels like another comic book panel.
Oh,
I could very easily see that in a comic book.
And honestly, that's it truly the only person Ash cares about, and it's the one person we don't see, mutilated and on screen. So it's kind of maybe his perspective of, he doesn't want to see that. He doesn't want us to see it, but everybody else he didn't care about.
Yeah.
Ash don't care about nobody for nothing.
I mean, he's a schmuck. He's always been. That's Sam Raimi's thing, is about a schmuck who's a hero, or unlikely hero.
Yeah. Cool. So, I believe that's the end of Act 1 then.
I think so.
Naturam de Monto, the Book of the Dead.
Well,
All right, let's
I
take a
guess we
shot.
talked a little bit of Act 2 with the whole dancing corpse thing.
Yeah.
All right. Down your Irish car bombs. Let's
Yep.
go.
All right. Go, go, go. All right, so Act 2. This is where the movie starts. I guess.
Kind of. It's where it becomes its own thing.
Yeah.
There you go.
And I guess
So now we're out of Evil Dead 1.5 and moved into Evil Dead 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess we didn't mention, but in Act 1, you've got the cutaway scene that introduces our other characters, is Annie, and then some guy with Annie that we don't get to know at all.
I thought it was her brother.
Was it? I don't know if
No,
it was
I don't
boyfriend
think it's her brother.
No? Okay.
or
Handsome blonde man.
Hey,
Yeah.
He went on.
Okay.
He went on to become a QVC host. So hey,
okay.
Yes.
I think his name's Ed, but
yeah, Ed, because they would call him Evil Ed when he turns into the
oh, nice.
Jedi.
hmm
One of my favorite little gags is definitely Ash's hand versus Ash, and then just the little joke when he stacks the books on the bucket and it says "Farewell to Arms."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
That
mean,
really got me.
This is a tour de force performance by Bruce Campbell. I mean, it's crazy to say these high praise things like you would a Lawrence Arabia with Evil Dead 2, but it's really warranted. I mean, the directing, and then Bruce Campbell, not everybody can convincingly do this. And I mean, the hand when he is on the floor, dragging himself, that's
man,
incredible. And then smashing things on his face, do it he had a stuntman that only jumped in for 2 shots.
Oh, okay.
He had a stuntman who was just not. I mean, that guy was just having a vacation, basically. But Bruce was like, "No, I'll do it." And there was a point where the guy went down, was supposed to fall down the stairs for him, and Bruce said, "No, that's too dangerous. Let me do it." But I mean, he did this all himself, and it's just insane what he does to his body, and manages to keep a composure and make it a genuine character throughout, rather than just oh, this guy's going, this guy's just being silly. It's believable. I mean, it's great.
Yeah, I put down Best Supporting Actor, Evil Hand.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, I love that part. I think I liked it. It's just, it is almost like he's created a second character just with his hand.
Mm-hmm.
It's the homage to, what is that thing from Addams Family?
Sure.
Especially when it's actually, sentient and walking around.
Yeah,
Flipping
there's
bird.
one of the writer, Scott Spiegel, made a short film before this. It was about a hamburger helper hand attacking a housewife, and that's what Raimi said. I'm taking your movie, and that's what we're gonna make Evil Dead 2 into is your hamburger helper movie. We're gonna take that and do all that with Ash's hands. So that's where that came from.
Oh, that's great.
Yes. Oh, sorry, you go.
As I say, what's great about this scene is, when people say that, this person has more talent in their pinky than you have in your entire body, Bruce Campbell has proof of it now. It's this is the amount of talent I have in my hand. Can you do that?
I think we found out in the movie Idle Hands that it is not as easy as it looks.
Yeah.
That's a rough one. I want to say is that Brandon Sawa?
Yeah,
Devin.
Devin Sawa, yeah.
Devin Sawa, yeah. Who's starring in Fred Durst's new movie.
Oh, goody.
Wait, back up.
Fred Durst.
Fred Durst is making a movie?
He's making an autobiographical film about a action movie star played by Devin Sawa, who is stalked and his life ruined by a deranged fan played by John Travolta. It's called Moose. John Travolta plays Moose. This is a real thing.
I hate myself because I'm kind of intrigued now.
I have no words.
Yeah, it's real. I want to see it. Like,
That
Sounds like a dumpster fire.
You
but
can't
I'm in.
hear this. You can't hear this and not say a pass. No, you're like, I have to see this thing play through. Please finish this movie. There's pictures of Travolta online. He looks like crazy. Like he's got this weird blonde cut and he's in almost like a Revolutionary War outfit. It's yeah.
It should be called "Can You Believe This Was Made?"
Right.
Hey, if you think that's crazy, there is a Shia LaBeouf biopic coming with the kid Lucas Hedges from Lady Bird and Three Billboards playing Shia LaBeouf, and Shia LaBeouf is playing his father in it.
Oh my God.
Ah, yes,
Ooh.
that I want to see.
Exactly. Like, oh, okay. So,
Sucks to be his dad in real life.
Yeah.
That's going to be rough. Wow.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
yeah.
Okay, so this has been Fred Durst, Shia LaBeouf Minute.
Yep.
2 names I did not think we would talk about.
Well, Brandon and I always talk about them, so
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
it was just a matter of time until it came up here.
gotcha. Nice.
We have the Significant Other podcast. It's our Limp Bizkit.
Every morning I watch Even Stevens before I do anything else. It's my call.
I was trying to pull the name of that show. I couldn't think of it.
We're recording a Holes commentary too.
Holes. Yeah, luckily I missed that Disney generation.
Yeah.
Oof. Yikes. All right, so where the hell were we? Oh yeah, the hand was going crazy.
Yeah. One of the things I love about, that I actually think Raimi is really great at is the suspense. Because Ash, I was writing this note, as I'm watching the movie, obviously, and I wrote, Ash just blew 2 holes in the door. He's opened it and stepped back, and that's when I pause the movie, because I have no idea what's coming at him, and I was like, I hate the cliched edge of my seat kind of thing, but it was it just really grabbed me. I don't know what's happening. I'm expecting evil to come at him, but then in the back of my head I'm thinking, well, this would be a great moment to introduce our other characters to the cabin. So, but I could have seen it going either way, and it really was effective. So I obviously hit play, and then it's he just gets rushed by is it Jake that comes through the door at him.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, Raimi is he's really great at mixing that suspense with the
comedy helps add to
comedy,
the suspense because it's a comfort, and it's also endearing that you're like, oh, this Ash guy, it's pretty funny, so you're on board with him, despite if there's maybe not a lot of characterization in the script or whatever, but because he's funny, you like him, and therefore you're on board with him and don't want to see bad things happen to him. And it also helps create a sense of comfort, so when something could shock you or put you in suspense, it's working. They work hand in hand together.
Well, you need the comedy in these movies because otherwise it's exhausting. Just all the suspense and tension and just the sheer terror that's happening in these movies. You need to laugh every once in a while so you can relax your muscles.
Yeah. There was a point in the movie where, once I think it's when he shoots at the hand and that little trickle of blood, and then it turns into the gushing, monsoon of blood that covers him. And I really loved that in the first movie. And I started thinking the torment of Bruce Campbell that I know Sam Raimi loves to torment his actors. It almost felt a little bit like, well, they're giving me what I've already seen, and in kind of a recreating kind of way. I have already seen this stuff, so a little part of me was like, oh, I've already had this. Give me something different or new. So there was a little bit of that as I was watching, just seeing things that he's already done. Kind of, I don't know, didn't work as well for me in this one.
Yeah, I feel like when he usually does that stuff, it's usually like, see, I can still do this. I can just do it better now.
Sure.
And it's done. I mean, there's the comfort of it. There's doing it the same, and then there's a different result to it, or coming at a different point. It's not exactly the same. It plays with what you know beforehand, or what to think, but it's also being enhanced and doing it better. I mean, it's an Evil Dead movie. There's going to be blood gushing on people, whether it's Ash or someone else.
And they warn you at the beginning of the movie that there's a wording that they use at the beginning that the seas will run red with blood, and to make the seas run red with blood, you'll need a lot of blood.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's like a pocket universe or something where all this blood comes from, like just the years of torment, but damn.
That's just a dimension opens up when everyone's cut or poked or whatever.
Yeah. It is crazy. But we accidentally skipped over my most unbelievable part of the movie.
Okay.
And the part that kept taking me out of the movie, and that is the Bobby, Joe, and Jake relationship. Because the whole time I kept thinking, no freaking way.
Have you been to Alabama?
Yeah, that was his fancy pair of overalls that he was wearing.
Yeah.
Meth's a hell of a drug.
I know.
I mean, it's a hillbilly town. He's a older guy, and she's probably like 19, and thinks she's so rebellious and cool, yet doesn't realize how big of a loser this guy is. I mean, that happens everywhere, so that's what I took it as.
Nope, not buying it. So it was the whole.
She could just leave town.
Yeah.
But it ended up working out because now I knew why he was so like gung ho on going out there and saving her, because he knew it's not getting any better.
I peaked.
Yeah. It literally took me out of the movie for a second. Like, I was like, wait, no, not really. Really?
Like, you look at him like, did you just pick her up like on the way to the cabin and she just needed a ride, or you know each other? What?
Yeah, but I got over it.
Did you see Harold and Kumar go to White Castle?
But yeah, just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah. I'm really glad that everyone ends up in the cabin together, and I love that they just throw him in the cellar because they haven't been on the same journey he has. So I like that we know that Ash isn't has reason, I guess, to have shot at Bobby Joe, but I like to them Ash is just this crazy guy in a cabin who shouldn't be there because it's her father's cabin or whatever, and I just love that we have a little sequence where he's got to convince them that he's not crazy.
Well, they walk into a blood splattered cabin with a chainsaw and just
where her father was,
So
after being shot at,
because we realize, Ash was just kind of sneaking into this cabin for the weekend. He wasn't didn't have it rented, it wasn't his parents' place. It was just, hope no one's there.
Yeah, I forget what is the explanation or the reason behind like the cabin and how he comes to know it's available, or why is he going there? I missed that.
It's a weekend out with Linda.
Yeah,
woods.
But
how does he know about the cabin?
What's that?
He must go there before it's.
It's probably know about it, and he's just like, well, it doesn't look like anyone's ever been here, so I just kind of
the local stabbing cabin, as a local call it. Got a little too stabby though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, apparently he didn't have a difficult time getting in because he didn't have to break in the door or anything.
There's probably like a fake rock next to the door. They just put a hide key in.
Deadites don't lock doors.
Be fair, it's a fake piece of poo.
Yeah.
And who's going to touch that?
Yeah.
Genius, Travis.
Yeah.
Genius.
Yeah.
copyright.
Yeah.
You gotta lock that idea down.
Mm.
We'll go on Shark Tank later.
You can call it private poop or something like that. I don't know.
Poopaki?
We're workshopping the title, sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
That'll work. Okay, off the rails again. So I like the sort of the reveal of what Ash has been doing when they play the recording.
Yeah.
And the father's like sort of dictating how his speaking the words out loud from the book have created a demon. Well, granted, he's reading the the demon summoning section of the book out loud.
Yeah.
So, and then his wife has been possessed, and he killed her and buried her in the basement where he is. And then you see a little "Here's Johnny" moment with the old lady.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought that was a really nice sequence of like explaining Ash's situation, and then the subsequent standard key fumbling unlocking sequence.
Yeah. That is a great moment. I love possessed Henrietta. And as I saw her, I was like, it's definitely not the old lady that we see, I think, earlier in a flashback.
Yeah,
Like,
Ted Raimi.
I knew like this is definitely a man under this makeup. So I was glad to see that it was Ted. And
well, getting possessed can add 78 pounds to you.
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, it dries out others. Apparently, Henrietta just put on a lot of weight.
Oh yeah.
She probably ate the father.
Oh,
course,
yeah.
And she's in the basement where it's naturally damper, and
So there's just more moisture in the air. Sure.
Granted, Linda was buried, but
This isn't based on scientific facts.
it was a dry soil out there. This was a damp soil. There we go.
A lot of nitrogen. Sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
I was a little surprised, like the boyfriend or Annie's, friend or whoever, Ed, like he gets a bump on the head and then, almost immediately turns into, a deadite. Like, whereas Ash, like he's been, bitten and covered in blood and like gone through all this hell, and he's fine. I mean,
well, they've been in him already.
That's true, but
and they'll come back too.
Yeah. I was
He's
just
the chosen one.
It's odd how quickly Ed turns.
Well, I guess just the evil force or whatever probably just loves torturing Ash, so they just use every available
Vessel.
Yeah, just to screw with his head. And then eventually when they're all out of vessels, like, well, I guess we'll kill him now. Because, it wasn't until after Linda died until they bothered to try to get inside Ash, really.
Yeah, because it kind of makes me think of, I'm trying to piece together the time sequence. Do they know Ash is the Ash from the past? The chosen one?
Oh, when they find the page with him on it?
Yeah. So, like, present day in this movie, do those Deadites know who he is?
El Jefe?
El Jefe, yeah. Because on the TV show, they seem to know, but I don't know in this movie if they know who they're dealing with.
That's a good point. They don't think that they can destroy him or something, that he has to go through certain events before they can destroy him or something like that. That does make a lot of sense.
Well, do they know that thing's written in the past? I mean, do the demons, are they currently aware of that? They're like all space and time, or, it's what they're knowledgeable of. I mean, do they know that stuff, or no, it's him, or things just play out as they play out?
And I know in the show, there's like almost like a tier of demon rankings.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, do they know? Are they just peons? Or because you'd think after they got his hand and then they see a chainsaw, they'd put two and two together. But
Yeah.
I mean, how many guys with a hand for a chainsaw for a hand are there in the universe? So I don't know. Just made me think of how the timing sequence works, or maybe they don't know until he goes back into the wormhole of suckitude.
I'm sure they probably weren't thinking that deeply when they were making the film.
See, if I was an evil force and I knew that there'd be a guy with a hand missing and a chainsaw that would take us all down, as soon as I saw a guy without a hand that had chainsaw, like, you know what? We're out.
Yeah.
Let's just get out of here. Let's screw with somebody else.
Or I'd just put his hand back on somehow. One of the two.
Yeah.
That'd be a way around it.
I was just floored by the finding out that they set up Army of Darkness here. Like, I had no idea that they laid the kind of the groundwork or the framework for Army of Darkness. So that was a pleasant surprise.
Well,
I know that. Well, go ahead. I think you're going to say the same thing, Brandon.
Well, I was just going to say, while this wouldn't be true in the time of Evil Dead, Army of Darkness' original ending had Ash, defeating them, screwing up, and then winding up in the future where the Deadites have just taken over everything. So maybe if you pull that true, then they would want Ash to go back in the past to do all that, so they would know they would take over in the future. But that's not true here because they hadn't made Army of Darkness yet. And...
Well, I know that Sam Raimi originally wanted to make this like a medieval kind of a thing, more or less Army of Darkness, but the budget just was not there. It's like, all right, well, we'll go back to the cabin, and then that little stuff at the end is like, well, I get to do a little bit of that, and if we get to make more, then great.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little surprised that they kind of do the scene with is it Bobby Joe kind of running in the woods, and they kind of pull from the the scene in Evil Dead with the tree rape and all that. Like, I'm glad they didn't go to that length because I had a real big problem with that when we did Evil Dead.
Yeah.
They still like put her through hell, like dragging her through the woods and everything. But then I was like, it's. Ash has also been beat to hell, so I'm oddly okay with the violence that they put her through.
Well, I mean, not to sound, I know there's people now like the tree rape thing or whatever. I don't think Sam Raimi makes that with malicious intent. I don't think he's like, getting off to it. I think he just does it because it's uncomfortable and gross. Like if it was a dude that it happened to, he'd have it go up his butt.
Sure.
I mean, that's where I don't think he has malicious intent. I think retroactively people have looked at it as, taking this. I don't think that's the intent of Sam Raimi. I think it's just a gross thing rather than a perversion.
Sure.
It didn't help that we'd watched Swamp Thing not too long before.
That's true.
It's a deleted scene from Swamp Thing.
Yeah. So that didn't help.
Okay. But no, I mean, some of these things you got to realize with the sequel, there's a checklist of things people are going to want to see in it. And like, people getting attacked by the forest, check. That's in there. It's not necessarily like rehashing or trying to redo it. It's just a checklist of things to see from the in the movie.
Yeah.
Another checklist thing was the eyeball into Bobby Joe's mouth. I was like, oh, that's going in somebody's mouth. Yep, there we are.
More reversed footage.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was funny when I was a child, or when I was at my uncle's house, and this was on TV in like the background, and we were leaving something, and I saw this eyeball sequence, and I think it was like this was probably like 6 or something years old, and I was like, holy crap, or whatever, and that's all I saw from this movie. I didn't know what the movie was, and forever when I was older, I was like, well, I wonder what that movie was with the eyeball thing. When I finally got to see Evil Dead 2, I was like, that was the movie. Like, when you see something as a kid and you can't, you don't know where it's from, what it is, and you hope you can figure it out in life somewhere. That was one of those moments. It was like, all I saw was a guy stomping on the head, the eyeball popping out, going in her mouth. I'm like, oh. and then I was like, what is that movie? I got to find it. And then Evil Dead 2, I saw that moment. I was like, oh, I have seen one thing from this movie.
Yeah.
So that's your real origin of the Evil Dead stuff, I guess.
Of Evil Dead, yeah. This is this one scene.
Fond childhood memory. That's awesome.
One scarred memory.
Yeah. And I thought I made it up. I'm like, no one would do something that gross.
Then you watch the rest of the movie. It's like, oh my god.
I was like, oh.
I'm assuming you grew up to be an optometrist now?
Yep.
Okay.
Amateurly. I don't have a license or anything.
Oh, the best kind, of course.
Mostly just stomping on people's heads until their eyes fly out.
Yeah.
Crispin Glover saw it too, and now he collects eyeballs. So, hey.
What's that? Something's in your eye? I can fix that. Floop. I will say this episode has had the most derailings, that's for sure.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Where we were going, we don't need rails. That's what Doc actually said before he took the train off in Back to the Future 3.
Yeah.
Wasn't in the movie, but Copernicus was like, there's no train tracks. Like, where are we going?
Copernicus? His dog?
Yes, he spoke. No, it was Jules and Verne. That's right.
Jules
One of those two.
yeah.
The one that points at his dick. The one that points at his dick.
Yeah. Save it.
Spoiler alert. Jeez.
I think one of my favorite moments in the movie is when they're all outside the cabin and Jake is, he's frantic because, in Jake's movie, he is the hero because he's the one that goes out, after his girlfriend, daughter, cousin. And,
Yes.
Now
I'm on board again. That makes perfect sense to me.
So I really like that he's the one, because he's like, we got to go after her. And Ash just kind of looks at him like, I don't think so, buddy. Like, he's not the hero for, Bobby Joe that falls on Jake. And then, he's out there in the woods and, crying out for her. And then we obviously see the evil kind of rushing towards him. And it just keeps cutting back to him, kind of yelling, and he has this moment where it's like, it's honestly, it's the best performance in the movie, I think. The look on his face goes from like panic to terror, and sadness as he kind of, it dawns on him like she's gone, she's he's not going to find her. But it's all in this facial performance in a matter of seconds, and it's really awesome. It really surprised me, coming from this Jake character. So that was I really dug that.
Well, it's like a realization that Bobby Joe is gone and that he is screwed.
Yeah.
He's in real danger.
Yeah. And then I legitimately jumped when, dead Ash pops up next to him.
Yeah, you do not expect that to happen at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dead Ash is the coolest Deadite.
Oh, man. His makeup is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's like his skull's pushing through
Yeah.
in front of the skin.
I like the sort of exaggeration of his chin.
As if that's needed.
Yeah. It's like putting one of those on Jay Leno. It's like, really? But it works. I love it.
Yeah. You guys got anything else on Act 2? I mean, I guess we probably want to talk about the chainsaw montage.
Yeah. Where he's gearing up for the final battle, I suppose. Because all of the the pages are in the cellar, and he knows he's got to go down there and fight Henrietta or whatever the hell her name is.
One of my favorite moments comes when after he's done being Deadite Ash, and she's still attacking him, and then he's like grabbing a hold of her and shaking. I'm fine. I'm fine. And then he realizes what he's doing, and he lets go of her. He's like, I'm fine.
Yeah,
that is just hilarious.
I do like that. Yeah, they go for it for an extra beat. With her attacking him again. That was really nice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, this is over, and then the axe appears right next to it.
Yeah, they did a really good job casting people that could sound really irritating when they're loud. Because I know we just said his name, but now I completely blanked on it. The guy in the overalls, when he's yelling,
Jake, yeah.
Jake, thank you. When he's yelling Bobby Joe, I was like, I just want every bad thing to happen to him. The cadence in his voice, just the volume of it, shut up and die now.
Well, you get your wish, so.
Yeah. Yeah, and like the women in this movie, like their screams are also just so grating.
Well, Sarah Berry got her role because of her scream. She read for Bobby Joe,
Okay.
and then convinced Sam Raimi to let her read for Annie, and they said, "Well, let's hear you scream." And then they were like, "Okay, you have it," because they liked her scream so much.
Nice.
Yeah, but yeah, she's one of those characters that once she starts screaming, she never stops.
The screaming I didn't really notice the screaming
Yeah, I don't.
in this one.
I didn't think.
Well, then I guess I'm the weird one.
Yeah, I'm sure my scream would be awful too if I was in that situation. So
Well, I mean,
I can't
I
fault
get,
it.
I get the Jake thing, but I thought that was just part of his hillbilliness that we were
Oh,
trying
yeah.
to embellish on.
That and his teeth.
Yeah, his real teeth, by the way.
Nah.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Ooh.
he had like one of those, like he's like got one of those like brace things where it's got teeth on it, and I forget what it's called.
Jeez. Yeah, there's just nothing appealing about him.
Yeah, I was hoping that Bobby Joe would come back and then they'd be on the same plane of looks. Just a possessed version of herself.
Yeah.
Then I'd be like, okay, they make sense now.
We're both a 2. Awesome.
So, missed opportunity, that's all I'm saying.
He looks at her and you're like, you know what? Now I'm too good for you.
Yeah.
Leaves the cabin.
Feel like I'm back in my varsity football days.
He gets the realization. He's like, oh, is this what Bobby Joe sees?
I know what it's like to be you. I'm sexy now.
Oh, poor Jake. We gotta stop picking on him. I feel bad now that I know it's his real teeth. I totally thought that was just a mouthpiece.
Nope.
Okay. I mean, because other than that, I mean, physical specimen, that one.
They aren't his real overalls, though.
He brought those to set.
They aren't. No.
Yeah.
With this movie, I could see that being his own overalls.
Yeah.
That's probably how he auditioned.
Yeah.
Well, in the first one, that certainly could have happened. That was so low budget. And there was a night where like in the first one, they all cast and crew pretty much stayed in the cabin because they didn't have any money. And there was and if you already talked about this, please forgive me, but there was a night where a bunch of backwoods guys were in front of the cabin and just like revving their engines and like doing like donuts and like firing off like shotguns and stuff like that in the middle of the night.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, he would be a pretty fitting character for the real life, filming of Evil Dead 1.
Yeesh. Yeah, that I think is the scariest thing. They sort of bring it up in that what is it, Cabin in the Woods or whatever that kind of homage to these cabin movies was, where they have the redneck zombies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I sort of thought of that. But yeah, I think the woods, regardless, are just a frightening place. Sure. So remember that, kids. Don't go camping.
And don't break into a cabin to go camping.
Yeah.
Just seems like nothing goes right if you're hiking or camping.
Well, I've hiked many times. I've never had anything like this happen to me. So.
I don't know. That's just not worth it.
Yeah, better not risk it.
Yeah. I'll go to a campground where, they have an arcade and shuffleboard, a pool. But backwoods camping?
No one ever got possessed going to Taco Bell, all right? Yeah. So just think about that.
It's always after Taco Bell.
Sure, you get held up at gunpoint, but never possessed. All right.
Have you had a cheesy gordita crunch? I'm on another plane when I have one of those.
The only thing I possess is my toilet afterwards.
Okay, I was going to say this episode is brought to you by Taco Bell, but I think they just yanked their sponsorship after that comment. Great.
So close, too.
They know what they are.
Yeah. You guys want to head down into the cellar and poke around, see what we can find?
Sure.
Groovy.
I love that it's a great scene. It's another one of those, the suspense is ramped up and everything. And then as he finds the pages and everything, and then he leaves by walking backwards the entire way. I kept waiting for the jump,
That whole scene feels almost like a video game, because there's an objective that you have to do, and it's spooky, of course, but the cellar also seems unnaturally large. Like, we know, in the house is huge itself, but and you hear cellar, you expect a dirt room. There's like 4 or 5 rooms down there.
Well, it's pretty big in the first movie too.
Yeah.
All right.
And it's like, this cabin has probably one kitchen sink, one bathroom, one toilet, and one maybe bathroom sink, but there's like plumbing for days down here. Like, he's walking, around like ductwork and pipes, and like, did the evil make the pipes like grow and expand?
Yeah, there's an evil plumber.
But it's kind of like he's walking through the woods almost down there. Like, there's, it's like the axes like branches and trees and shit to get in his way. So
I think it's more likely that whoever did the plumbing on this house had no idea what they were doing and just kept throwing up, different pipes. I bet it was.
He's also a plumber.
He's a plumber and a model.
I'm going to say
triple threat.
I'm going to say no on the plumber, just because he's wearing overalls and you can't really have a butt crack hanging out with overalls. So,
well, we've never seen a plumber wear overalls before, have we?
Unless you're doing it right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does he have like a back panel that just unbuttons?
Yeah.
No, he's just dressed for jumping on Goombas and avoiding Wampas. And...
Touche.
It's a Wampas. That's not right. Swamps.
Yeah.
Well, you just ruined this movie for me, because now while I'm watching it, I'm just going to hear no.
Well, that fits the cellar part, definitely.
It does. Yeah, basically my notes for this last half are just the creatures.
Yeah, yeah. That's kind of where I'm at. I love the Henrietta demon puppet snake thing. Her makeup or her effects are already really great, and then when her head just snakes out like that, it's a kick-ass monster or whatever that they create. It looks really awesome.
Because it wasn't scary and unnerving enough.
Yeah,
just crank it up. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that it still has a weakness of nursery rhymes.
Oh yeah.
Lullabies or whatever you want to call them.
Now, if anyone comes across a demon, I would not suggest just reciting nursery rhymes. This is a one-time thing. If you see that, run the other way. It's a public service message.
But yeah, I like the whole, like, I guess the finishing move that Ash has.
Yeah.
With limbs and everything flying off the Henrietta monster. It was just a cool way to end that. I don't know. It was just like, I just pictured in my head, finisher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And boy, did he.
Oh, yeah. Swallow this.
Yeah, that is awesome.
All I could hear when everything's saying swallow your soul, it sounds like Hervé Villechaize from
Fantasy Island,
Man with a Golden Gun. Yeah, Fantasy Island. Like, that sounds like his voice.
Finish him.
Yeah. Swallow your soul.
It's very angry Hervé Villechaize.
Yeah, I like the. Oh, sorry, go.
I was just gonna quickly say that the end of the movie here, this kind of from this point on, it's just a blur of rubber things and wind machines for me.
Yeah.
It escalated rather quickly after.
Yeah.
It's just a murder everything orgy to the end. Yeah.
But I like that the whole recitation of the wording that you have to get out. And of course, she gets stabbed in the back by a spinal cord sword. And she's, struggling to get through it because she's summoned it and made it physical, but there's still a second part that she really needs to finish.
Yeah.
So I like that whole piece that, she got part of the way there, and then there's that suspense of will she be able to finish it off kind of thing. Because we know Ash can't do it.
Yeah, Ash is good for blowing shit up. That's what he does.
Yeah.
She's the brains, he's the bronze, definitely in this.
And the looks.
Yeah. It changes a little bit in the TV show, that's for sure. He thinks he's still got the looks, but
Well, that's the thing. Well, that's the thing that I noticed. It's funny. He's the same guy here as he is in the show, except he's older in the show and just hasn't learned anything. And it's kind of rings true. I mean, if you see that old guy hitting on the young women at the bars, that's who Ash is, still thinking he's in his early mid-20s. And
Travis, you got to check out that show. It is worth it.
Okay.
Definitely. I mean, even if you don't like the Evil Dead stuff, it's just the character of Ash.
And that's the thing. I love Ash. I love. I've obviously spent more time with Army of Darkness Ash, but I do love I love Bruce Campbell in general, and just the whole character of Bruce Campbell. Yeah,
just his irrational confidence and swagger, just awesome. Okay, so we're getting sucked into a giant. What is it?
Portal.
Yeah.
Satan's butthole, or whatever they call it in Thor. Satan's sphincter. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah. The anus or something like that.
Satan's anus,
Yeah, Satan's anus.
That was close. It was like a thesaurus version of that. Sphincter, anus, butthole.
It's all the same.
Poop shoot, whatever. You know what it is.
Like St. Patty's Day with the Seamus anus. This is the same.
Take a shot. Anything else for Act 3 here?
Sam Raimi has a little cameo.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, he's the knight that talks. It's like, oh, all hail. He lifts up this thing, and he says, all hail, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that he looks so bad that they think he's a Deadite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you see the pterodactyl one, and it doesn't look anything like Ash, so it's kind of weird that they just assume because it fell from the sky that it is one, I guess. But
he also falls with like a car,
and
a chainsaw for a hand.
Yeah.
They're more like, what is it? Kill it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, if they're being, if these Deadites have been coming after them to kill them, it's something they don't recognize. Like, it's probably one of them. Like, just as a reflex.
Yeah.
Which it's great that the car goes through the portal so it can be included in Army of Darkness, because Sam Raimi uses the car in every movie of his. So.
It's the classic. You
yes.
To.
Yeah. It's Uncle Ben's car.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do just feel so bad for Ash. Like, the whole movie has just been, just wailing on him. And then like, well, your reward is going back to the medieval times. What? Come on.
Yeah, what does this spend, like 2 days of hell for him?
Yeah.
And then he gets rewarded by getting sucked into the past with a bunch of guys that want to kill him, and then more Deadites.
Like, you think he would just collapse from lack of sleep?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was floored. I mean, I didn't know that this scene was how the movie ended, so I was really, really happy to see it.
Well, and it's super eerie how, like, when he gets sucked into Satan's butthole, or whatever we want to call it, like that music that plays, like the music is the only sound that you hear, and it's super it's cryptic, I guess would be the right term. I hope it's the right term. And he's just spinning around. It's like, what the hell else could happen to this guy? And then we find out.
Oh yeah, it's very Wizard of Oz, except he doesn't have a comfy house to land in.
Well, yeah, of course he would just fall from the sky and just land on his feet. Like, that's just like because nothing good can happen to him ever.
And I think his reaction to it all is just perfect.
Yeah.
Where he's just like, no.
Yeah.
Like, because that is what I would be like.
Like, really? Really? I've been through enough. No, this. Come on.
And he's seen the picture in the book, so he knows he's in for a hell of an adventure again.
And that's why I like that the reaction is him, I think, realizing that, this prophecy thing has come true or whatever. Like, it dawns on him that he is the guy in the old drawing. So I like that.
Yeah, it just ends with him yelling no over and over again.
Well, it's funny, like it takes like a couple watches to really kind of grasp that, because the first time looking through the pages and seeing that picture with him in there is such a brush by, and you're not expecting it to go the medieval route. So when you go back to the film and watch it again, you're like, oh, that was right there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a nice little thing to come back for later.
Yeah, I think that the only way I recognized it was because I had seen Army of Darkness before.
Yeah.
So when they showed that, I was like, oh my God, they're setting it up right here. That's great.
Okay. So
All
I think
right.
that's pretty much the end.
I think so.
Hail he who has come from the skies to deliver us from the terrors of the Deadites! Hail! 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 No! No!
All right, we want to wrap this sucker up. So we'll jump into, I guess, our most heroic and most villainous moments or characters or whichever applies. So
This planet, these people, they are nothing to me.
You were made to be ruled.
The universe is power. You unstoppable power. Come to me, son of Jor-El. Kneel before Zod. And I am that force. I am that power.
In the end, you will always kneel.
Kneel before your master.
you guys want to share what your most villainous is for the movie?
Just trying to narrow it down because there's so many things.
Yeah, we always have a sometimes we have a hard time with when a movie like this, there's no like one bad guy. It's just kind of an overall, evil is the bad guy kind of thing. So,
well, I think if I have to say something, and I do, I'd say when Bobby Joe gets like pulled through the forest because she gets wadded up in all the branches and everything like that, and then she just goes into like a pit where who knows what happens to her. So I think that what we've seen from the first Evil Dead movie, that could be happening to her. It's certainly plausible. So that's what I would say.
Right on.
Yeah. I'd say that that's probably the most the one that Cullen nailed it right there. But maybe the fact that the Deadites and stuff has created such a panic and such a sense of psychoticness that it eventually leads Annie to stabbing Jake, which she's an innocent person.
Man,
They've cultivated such a. I mean, her parents are dead. Her mother's this Deadite going around. There's Ash. It's crazy. All this insanity's happening, and it turns her into a murderer on accident, not her fault because of everything going around.
Yeah, I forgot about that, but that is a great section of the movie where it's like, essentially it turns into Halloween or Nightmare on Elm Street, where they're running from I actually wrote down I called him Slash because it's Ash as a slasher. Yeah.
Oh, that'll come back in the TV show.
Oh, really?
Slashy Ashy or Ashy Slashy or something like that.
I had Annie's father just for reading the from the book and recording it initially, like gonna
and not destroying the tape.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I'm gonna go with Henrietta, where she's pretending to be her mom still.
Oh yeah.
Just that mind screwing. Pretty villainous.
Sure.
So we're gonna go to heroic.
Sure.
I believe there's a hero in all of us.
I just finally know what I have to do.
It keeps us honest,
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
gives us strength,
You will give the people of Earth an ideal to strive towards.
makes us noble.
And I know in my heart that it's right.
I'm going to go with Bobby Joe for really jumping on that grenade known as Jake.
Wait, what?
Taking one for everybody.
Yep. One less woman has to suffer because Bobby Joe took that horrible grenade.
Nice.
Like, look, someone has to do it. It might as well be me.
And typically that's a guy going for a girl, but I like the switch, a girl with a guy. Very progressive.
Okay.
I defy anyone to beat that. Gauntlet has been thrown down.
Yeah. I'm gonna say when Ash comes out of the cellar, when he when Henrietta is up there screwing with Annie, and he just has a look of determination, and that's where he really becomes a hero. It's like probably honestly my favorite moment from any of these Evil Dead movies. It's the moment where Ash says, "I'm done screwing around. I want this to be done now." And I really, really like that.
I'll go with Ash versus his hand.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible battle.
Mm-hmm. Right on. I'm going to give it to Annie for finishing the incantation with a dagger in her back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a gutsy move.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, without her, I mean, yeah, it kind of goes south real quick.
Yeah.
He's not doing too good with that tree monster.
Oh,
whatever.
yeah.
I'm not sure how to describe it, but
Evil incarnate.
yeah, sure.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Patrick, we're going to do our Rotten Tomatoes.
All right. Let's do it to it.
All right.
This is going to be a tough one.
Yeah. You want to explain what this is?
Attack of the Killer Tomatoes! Attack of the Killer Tomatoes! They'll beat you, bash you, squish you, mash you, chew you up for brunch, and finish you off for dinner or lunch.
So basically, we're trying to guess, and if you already know, don't tell us, and you'll seem smarter. But trying to guess the critic and the audience percentage on Rotten Tomatoes. It's rather difficult with movies like this, I will say, just because of the kind of cult status. So if you already know it, no big deal. But we just like to run through it, how horrible we are at this. Usually I'm the worst. So, I don't know, Travis, you want to show them how it's done?
Okay.
So the audience review.
Or you could tell us. I can't see him.
I'm going to guess the audience rating is at, this is tough. I'm going to say 88%.
All right. Any other takers on audience?
I know this answer, so
okay.
I will sit quietly.
I'll say 80.
All right. Audience. I'm gonna go 92.
Damn.
Okay. Well, I figure the people that's already fans of Evil Dead, so.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Then critic. This is where it might get a little dicey. How about you, Travis?
I'm gonna go 85. I think they're probably pretty close.
All right. Next.
I will say 75 for critics.
Oh, wow.
All right. I was thinking around there too, so I'm going to go with maybe 70. Okay.
Do you guys want to know?
Brandon's just secretly mocking us the whole time.
Right.
And rightfully so for the most part. Well, actually, Travis, you're pretty damn close.
Travis almost nailed one.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's 98% for critics and 89% for audience.
Huh. Well, I don't have a lot of faith in humanity,
Wow.
so I thought it was going to be lower.
Wow. Yeah, I'm surprised by the critic.
That was a well-reviewed movie. It's got good craft. And a lot of those critic ones on Rotten Tomatoes are retroactive too. So
I guess that's probably what I was thinking. I was thinking of critics like in the moment, not retrospectively.
Yeah.
I think I just automatically ding horror movies. People tend to not think as highly of them.
Yeah, I mean, modern critics. I mean, during this time was a time where all the critics were after the horror movies. A lot of them were. So it's definitely like a retroactive one.
Gotcha.
But I mean,
it's crazy.
It's got an 8 out of 10. That's the true score.
Yeah.
There, if you look, it's 8 out of 10.
Average rating, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
98% is just 98% of them are in favor of it.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, a six and above is in favor of. So it could have it could be 100% and have a 6 out of 10. So that's why the percentage is.
Oh Lord. That was far higher than I anticipated. Oh, wow. I mean, it is a better version of the first one. I mean,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That's for sure. Okay.
All right. Do we want to do our ratings then, and
Sure.
overall thoughts and ratings?
Sure.
And we'll rate it out of 5. So if you guys want to let us know what you think of this one.
It's a big pile of turds. No. I would definitely give this. I think it's 5 out of 5. Honestly, for me, it's my favorite Evil Dead movie, and it's 5 out of 5. The characters are great. The suspense is fantastic. It's just it's a movie that had a goal, and I think it accomplished the hell out of that goal.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I'll go 5 out of 5 as well. It's a fantastic movie in every aspect. Like it's a great horror movie, great comedy, great physical performance, well directed. The special effects for this is off the charts, and it's like an all-star group too. Crazily enough, because in the pre-Nicotero or KMB days, but Mark Shustrom led the charge and hired like Howard Berger, Greg Nicotero, Robert Kurtzman, who would be KMB, and just defined, along with like Tom Savini and John Carl Buechler, defined like the effects of the 80s. And these guys have their own production houses now and are just legends. I mean, this is one of their best displays. They all wanted to work on this movie, being fans of the first one, and just knocked it out of the park. Because like just the gore's great. And like as I've heard someone describe before, like this balance of horror and comedy is like my body can't tell whether I should be puking or laughing. So, I mean, it's a great thing Sam Raimi does where he's having you laugh, but uncomfortably or disgusted too. I mean, Drag Me to Hell's another great example of this. It's a great companion to this movie. But, I love both the first 2 Evil Dead movies. And if someone says, well, Evil Dead 1's my favorite, cool. If Evil Dead 2's your favorite, but you're not wrong either, because I like both of them for what they do and for their... the first one's a triumph of its limitations and what it was able to do and how effective it was with that. And then this one's just a masterpiece of gore, horror, direction. Just it's awesome. So yeah, 5 out of 5. High rating.
Wow, right on.
Jeez. All right. Well, I think the first one, me and Travis, neither of us really enjoyed. So,
yeah.
However, with that said, this one is the one I was thinking of when watching Evil Dead 1. And I remembered liking that, and now I remember why I liked it, because it's just a cleaner, better put together film than the first one. Obviously, the extra money helps. But I'm going to go 4 out of 5 just because the beginning is just so odd. I know they were forced to redo things, but it was just so quickly thrown together, it seemed like, where it just escalates so damn quick that it's jarring having seen the first one, where it's a little more drawn out and you sort of see a evolution of Ash, whereas this one it's just like, boom, let's chop her up and throw her on the ground, boys. So
nice.
I think that's the only reason I'm going to ding it. It looked great. It was fun to watch. Some of the camera work did kind of get to me at some point, but that just may have been because it was late at night when I was watching it. I almost had a feeling that they used it a bit too much with the whole, jarring movements of the camera. But as a whole, I'd definitely say 4 out of 5. Travis, this is going to be good.
You son of a bitch. So I mean, yeah, like Patrick said, we did not have a good time with Evil Dead, and like I said, that's our lost recording. So, but going into this one, I was a little worried that I wasn't going to enjoy it. But then once it got going, I did have some problems early on with, what is this movie? Is it a remake? Is it a sequel? So obviously now I understand the limitations they had with the rights and everything. And obviously it gets going after that. I agree with the pacing is really strong. I've already talked about how great the suspense is. There's a few moments with special effects that I can see, the limitations that they have. I can see the wires, a few times and stuff like that, but I don't take anything really away from that. But it is there; it's noticeable. But what I love about this is Bruce Campbell. I think it's definitely watchable for him. Yeah, I didn't love this movie, but I did enjoy it. So I'm at a 3.5. So that's why I was hoping Patrick would come in with a lower rating than me, so he could be the bad guy. But
you son of a bitch.
Hey,
yeah.
sometimes we have to be wrong for the greater good.
Yes.
That's we need conflict. So yeah.
Everyone's entitled to their opinion. Unfortunately, your opinion is wrong.
Right.
And that's fine.
Sometimes the world doesn't allow you to be wrong, and your episode gets lost. So
that's true.
Yeah, I definitely would not recommend this movie to anyone that has got motion sickness.
Yeah.
Because some of those scenes were kind of rough. Just the quick camera cuts and movements were. I mean, like I said, it worked as an effect almost, but at a certain point, I was like, okay, I'm good. I gotta close my eyes.
Yeah. Well, and there's a scene where
I don't know.
It's the group of them, and it's just their reaction. So that it's everyone look left, look up, look down, look right. I think they do that twice. So little things like that were okay. Things like that I kind of get tired of.
It's a signature of these, the story. But yeah.
But overall, that puts it at a 4.375 out of 5. So I mean, that's not bad at all. So
yeah, even with the 2 fanboys skewing everything, 5 out of 5. Jeez. So basically, this is your
look
Raiders
around.
of the Lost
We're not
Ark.
alone.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not crazy praising, giving high praise to Evil Dead 2.
Yeah.
Raiders,
I mean, if you've seen High
Evil Dead
Fidelity,
2.
Jack Black even goes off about how great Evil Dead 2.
And that character's stable.
Yeah.
He's passionate.
Okay, so yeah. Can't wait to see Army of Darkness now.
Oh yeah. What was that, 92?
Yeah, it's quite a bit later. Although between 1 and 2, it's a lot of distance too. So
yeah.
Can I mention La Casa?
Sure.
Yeah.
So the Evil Dead was huge in overseas, especially in Italy and stuff. So they started retitling movies to fit Evil Dead. The Evil Dead was called La Casa, and Evil Dead 2 was called La Casa 2, and that was wildly popular. So before Army of Darkness, they made 4 sequels that they would call La Casa 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or something like that. And there's a movie called Ghost House, which actually isn't bad. Has nothing to do with Evil Dead. And then they have one called Witchery, which has David Hasselhoff and Linda Blair. That's La Casa 4. They have a movie called Beyond Darkness, which is La Casa 5, and it has the kid from Troll 2 and the director from Troll 2 did it. And then, get this is the craziest thing. House 2, the movie House?
With William Catt?
Yeah,
right?
it's a horror movie. House 2, the second story, which is one of the cleverest titles ever made, that became La Casa 6. And then House 3 became La Casa 7. And then Army of Darkness was La Casa 8. But I don't even know if it got called La Casa. But yeah, so there's like all these not intended to be, but after post-production renamed, like essentially Evil Dead 4, 5, and 6 in Italy, which is hilarious.
Huh.
Kind of like a horror comedy Fast and Furious franchise. That's what I'm hearing.
It reminds me of like the zombie movies, spelled Zombi, because what wasn't the first or the original Dawn of the Dead? Wasn't that the first zombie movie? And then
yeah. It was called Zombie overseas,
right?
And then
they made a bunch of bastardized sequels.
But those were actually made to be like sequels type things. These were movies that were made, and then like, let's slap a cost. Like Troll 2 was not made to be Troll 2, and they slapped that on later. And then also Demons, it's just an Italian horror series, had like 5 sequels that Japan kept retitling Demons 3, 4, 5, and they weren't. But Demons was huge over there, so they decided to do that.
Wow.
Marketing people. Jeez.
You can't do that nowadays. There was like loose like laws in Italy and stuff.
Sure.
They made a movie called Alien 2 before Aliens came out. They have like Terminator sequels. It's insane because they didn't have laws to prevent copyright laws to prevent stuff like that from happening.
Yeah. Now we just get Transmorphers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Gross.
Well, I remember seeing that at a video store. I'm like, I bet somebody rented that thinking they were getting Transformers.
Mm-hmm.
Evil.
So you guys have a long way to go before you get to Army of Darkness, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. So our next movie actually ties into Evil Dead 2, I think.
Does it?
It's a possible explanation as to what was chasing Ash and he couldn't see.
Oh, right. It did already come up.
Predator.
It's a good
with
call.
Arnold
So
Schwarzenegger.
you're saying the Evil Dead franchise crosses over with the Predator?
It could be. Why not?
Or
AVP,
sexual Tyrannosaurus.
Ash. Yeah. So yeah, we got Predator next with Schwartzy.
Schwartzy. I hope that's his nicknames. I hope someone calls him Schwartzy.
That's what Sven calls him.
Schwartzy, come in here.
Schwartzy.
Your little hose needs a cleaning.
I just made that up and it is perfect.
I'm going to use it from now on.
Yeah.
It's just so much easier than saying Schwarzenegger.
Mm-hmm.
Easier to spell, too.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, we got another
and then you guys will
action.
use the Schwartzy coming up, too, right?
Ooh, yes.
I was afraid that's where he was going, so I didn't want to say it.
May the Schwartzy be with you.
Yeah. Well, Brandon, you might as well go to bed because it's not getting better than that.
Boom! Like the scene of the dead pimps, or the pimp death.
What?
It's from Scream Blackula Scream.
Okay.
It's an excellent pimp death scene.
I'll have to
All right,
for
well,
that one.
yeah, I think we just ended it how I pretty much envisioned this would end.
Yeah.
Randomness.
A bucket of puke and a straw in it next to me. Yeah.
All right. Brandon and Cullen, thank you for helping us along with this one, and especially taking it easy on us with it being post St. Patrick's Day. And
Oh, yeah. Nothing like taking it easy on us by talking of buckets of puke and then soaking it up and then trying to tell stories of somebody peeing with their pants down at work and then...
Some degenerate.
Yeah.
You asked us on, so that's what you get.
True. That's true.
The new Potty Pals podcast.
Yeah.
So where can people find you, and why don't you tell us about your show again real quick?
You can find our show at cultcinemacavalcade.com, iTunes, anywhere podcasts are found, basically. The show where it talks about B movies, Z movies, crazy movies, sometimes underrated sequels, sometimes underrated movie, who knows? We have a lot of fun. We have guests. Sometimes it's just me and Cullen. We are on social medias like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at CC Cavalcade. I'm Matt BT Peters, and you can sometimes find my written work at wiseofblue.com.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at my name is Cullen. And if you want to learn more about movies such as Shocker, The Boyfriend School, Death Stalker 3, Zardoz, Pass Through, Terror Squad, Speed
Dangerous
Trap,
Men,
Dangerous Men, Dune, Needles, Tango and Cash, The Creature Walks Among Us, Deathbed, Dracula 3000. You can find all that kind of stuff on our show.
Wow. How did you guys find such award-winning films?
Spend a lot of time in bathrooms, you learn some things.
Okay.
Zardoz was here. What the heck does that mean?
Very cool. Yeah. You can find us at on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at Real Comic Heroes. Join our Facebook group, the Real Comic Heroes League of Citizens. Tell me if I'm right or wrong about Evil Dead 2. If you want to hear more of my dumb voice every single day, you can check out my other show, Watchmen Minute, where we're talking about the movie Watchmen 1 minute at a time. What else we got, Patrick?
I think that should do it.
All
We'll
right.
see him next time with the weird noises coming from the Predator. And lots of guns, and I don't just mean firearms. A lot of cocoa butter on them arms.
You son of a bitch.
And as always, may the shorts be with you. We never say that.
Man, we ain't found shit.
Best line of the movie.
I do like that line.
So you like
That's
Spaceballs?
the one thing I'm looking forward to.
You like that line? That line's in Spaceballs. You like Spaceballs.
Yep.
Using the transitive property.
I mean, Pizza the Hut doesn't get much better.
Pizza's gonna order out for
you. Travis, you are in for a treat.
Yep, I gotta go.
Come on. Characters like Blorf, half man, half dog. He's a Mog. He's his own best friend. Yeah. John Candy's finest role.
America's sweetheart, John Candy.
Yep. So, all right. I think that'll do it.
I guess so.
We are a rescue team, not assassins. Now, what do we gotta do?
In a part of the world where there are no rules.
We pick up their trail at the chopper, run them down, grab those hostages before anybody knows we were there. What do you mean we?
Deep in the jungle, where nothing that lives is safe.
You lose it here, you're in a world of hurt. Showtime, kid. Knock, knock.
An elite rescue squad
You're bleeding, man. I ain't got time to bleed.
is being led by the ultimate warrior.
We need the best. That's why you're here.
But now,
What's got Billy so spooked?
there's something out there waiting for us. And it ain't no man. They're up against the ultimate enemy.
Holy Mother God.
Nothing like it has ever been on Earth before.
She says the jungle just came alive and took him.
We cannot see it.
No blood, no bodies. We hit nothing.
But it sees the heat of our bodies and the heat of our fear.
Whatever it is out there, it killed Hopper. And now it wants us.
It kills for pleasure.
He was skinned alive!
It hunts for sport.
He's killing us one at a time. We're all gonna die.
But this time, it's picked the wrong man to hunt.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Century Fox presents Arnold Schwarzenegger. Predator. The hunt begins Friday, June 12th at theaters everywhere.
Before we jump into all of our wrap-up stuff, I'm going to hit the restroom real fast if anyone else wants to.
Take a straw.
Yeah.
All right, I'll be over in a moment.
Yeah, it's kind of weird you invited us to go pee with you.
Are you taking the mic with you?
Be like the Naked Gun where Leslie Nielsen goes. Does he sing like Moon River? I can't remember. He does sing something
like that. Yeah, and then the subsequent shakes and starts and stops, and
you can just hear it hit the porcelain. Whoops.
Oh yeah, he's very freewheeling when he's at a urinal. Apparently, he's just like trying to write his name in the snow. I don't know what he's doing.
I've never come across anyone as free as that at a urinal, but there was where I used to work. There was a guy who lived in the bathroom apparently, or maybe I did, but I'd see him in the bathroom all the time at the urinal, and he'd always have his hands in his back pockets, like legitimately both of his hands. It's just like what.
What the hell conversation did I come back to?
Hey, that was quick.
Yeah.
It's fine. Is it to your left? Did you hit mute and just pee?
Pretty much. Yeah, I just used the bucket that I had on standby for in case I had to, hurl.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Travis stores his urine just in case he needs to distill it for drinking water.
He was just changing his bag. He wasn't really peeing.
Yeah.
You never
know.
know.
Howard Hughes was a major inspiration to you, I guess.
I will say the freest peeing is probably when you're in grade school and there's that kid that puts his pants all the way down to the ground and pees into the urinal that goes all the way down to the ground.
Yeah.
That is the freest peeing you will ever have.
There was one time, again, where I was at work. Like, all my work stories about bathrooms. Anyway, I was like in a bathroom by myself, and it was like a single person bathroom kind of a thing. So I did that. I was like, screw it. Like, that'll be funny just to me. So I did that, and legitimately, I have forgotten to lock the door twice. This was one of those times. And so, of course, someone opens the door, and I'm like, oh, no. So he closed it immediately. So it's someone I don't talk to a lot at work. So I just thought, like, this guy thinks I'm a sociopath.
Yeah.
How I use I swear, like, I've never done that aside from being a child. It was just on a whim. I did it. Man. And the worst possible situation.
So you're saying like working at like being the same as a custodian, all your stories are bathroom stories. Is that how it works? Like custodians and whole lot of shit.
That's an excellent tagline for the station.
Talk about the sneak peek behind the scenes there. Jeez.
Oh, yeah. It was even like it was one of the reporters too, so that made me feel extra bad.
That's awesome.
So when I see the news and it's like bathroom etiquette next, we know the inspiration.
That place could learn some bathroom etiquette.